I wandered deeper into the library, down an aisle that seemed to stretch forever. The lamps grew dimmer the farther I went, and their golden light faded into a soft blue haze. The air was cooler here, and the scent of old pages was stronger, mixed with something faintly like rain on stone. I stopped at another shelf and tilted my head to read the spines. Most of the titles were faded, but one caught my eye, The Book of Quiet Places. The title felt right, so I carefully slid it from the shelf. The cover was textured like woven cloth, and the pages were yellowed at the edges. When I opened it, there were no chapters, no index, only long paragraphs that read like memories. The first line said, "Every quiet place begins when you stop waiting for sound." I read it again, slowly, letting the words settle. The sentences moved like ripples across still water. The story described a garden that only appeared when the world fell silent. It wasn't exciting, and maybe that was why I loved it instantly. After a few pages, I closed the book and hugged it lightly against my chest. I didn't know if I was allowed to borrow it, but the idea of leaving it here felt wrong. I decided I would ask someone, though I hadn't seen anyone since the old man vanished. As I turned a corner, I found a small reading area I hadn't noticed before. It looked like a cozy living room set right in the middle of the library, 2 armchairs, a lamp with a fabric shade, and a rug that looked hand-woven. A small kettle sat on a wooden table beside a cup and saucer. Steam rose from the spout, though no one was around to pour it. The cup was half full of tea, still warm. I placed the book down and sat in one of the armchairs. The fabric was soft, worn smooth by years of use. I leaned back and closed my eyes. The faint ticking of a clock echoed through the space. For a while I just breathed, slowly, deeply. It felt as if the air itself was encouraging me to relax. When I opened my eyes, I noticed something strange. A cat was sitting quietly across from me on the rug. It was gray with small white paws and a tail that flicked lazily from side to side. It looked at me, blinked slowly, and then turned its head toward a nearby doorway, as if to say, "This way." I smiled and followed. The cat led me through a narrow passage lined with shelves so tall they seemed to touch the ceiling. The farther I walked, the more the light softened. It didn't feel like night or day anymore, just a timeless kind of glow. At the end of the passage, the cat stopped beside a heavy wooden door. On it was a brass plate engraved with a single word, "Memory." I reached for the handle. It turned easily, and the door opened without a sound. Inside was a smaller room, circular and perfectly still. The walls were lined with short shelves, each holding books bound in the same pale gray material. In the center of the room was a table with a single candle burning. The flame didn't flicker. I stepped closer and picked up one of the books. The cover was blank. When I opened it, I saw words written in handwriting, not printed text. The ink looked fresh, and then I realized something that made me pause. The handwriting was mine. I read the first few lines. "I came here tonight without meaning to. I followed a light between 2 old buildings. I think I was looking for silence, but maybe silence was looking for me." I stared at the words. They described everything that had happened since I arrived, word for word. I flipped through the pages, and each one told more of my own story, continuing beyond what I remembered. Sentences described things that hadn't happened yet. I closed the book carefully and set it down. My heart wasn't racing. Strangely, it was calm. Somehow, it all made sense. This was a library that never closed because it was never finished. It was still writing itself, and everyone who entered became part of its pages. The cat brushed against my leg and purred softly, grounding me in the moment. I knelt and scratched behind its ear. "Do you live here too?" I whispered. It blinked slowly again, which felt like a yes. When I looked up, I noticed a small window above the shelves. Outside, the sky was neither dark nor light. It looked like the soft color that comes just before dawn. The candle's flame flickered once and then steadied. I sat down at the table and took a breath. There was an open journal in front of me, and beside it, a pen. The ink glowed faintly blue like moonlight caught in liquid. I hesitated for a moment, then wrote a single sentence. I think I will stay a little longer. As soon as the ink touched the paper, I felt the air shift slightly, as if the library itself had exhaled. A deep calm spread through me, from my fingertips to my chest. I closed the book gently, and the candle flame danced in approval. The cat jumped onto the table, curled into a small gray circle, and went to sleep. I leaned back in the chair, looking around the quiet room. I didn't feel lost anymore. Maybe there was no need to leave just yet. Maybe some places find you exactly when you're ready to be still. The silence was perfect. Not empty, just full of peace. And somewhere far away in the library, I thought I heard a soft voice whisper, "You can rest here."